On May 31st, 2024, Birmingham Southern College shut down its campus forever after nearly 170 years of operation. Gone. All of it. A silent financial crisis, rather than a lack of student interest, forced the Board of Trustees to abandon the campus. The collapse exposed a structural equation where published tuition rates have become completely disconnected from real revenue, leaving administrators with massive fixed overhead and a rapidly shrinking pool of applicants. Parents scanning university brochures often face a sticker price that exceeds $60,000 per year for tuition alone. Adding housing, meal plans, and mandatory fees can easily push the annual cost past $90,000. This massive price tag suggests a highly profitable business model that generates substantial surplus cash. In reality, the published price has become a financial fiction designed to project prestige. Most students never pay the full sticker price. Colleges immediately return a massive portion of their potential revenue directly to the student in the form of institutional scholarships and grants. This accounting mechanism is known as the tuition discount rate. For the 2023-2024 academic year, private non-profit universities discounted their tuition by an average of 54.4% for first-time students. By the following year, the discount rate climbed even higher to 56.3%. Every nominal dollar of tuition billed by these schools yields only about 44 cents in actual revenue. Administrators call the money they keep the net tuition revenue. Net tuition revenue represents the actual cash available to pay the faculty payroll and maintain the physical campus. While the sticker price rises every year to maintain the appearance of luxury, net tuition revenue has flatlined or even decreased at many mid-tier private schools. Such discounting creates a widening gap between what the public thinks colleges collect and what actually enters their bank accounts. Credit rating agencies like Moody's frequently downgrade the debt of these tuition-dependent institutions, citing weak enrollment growth and high discount rates. Lower credit ratings increase the interest rates these colleges must pay when borrowing money for capital improvements, driving their fixed costs even higher. Families celebrate receiving a $30,000 scholarship, unaware that the discount was already factored into the university budget. The discount functions like a retail markdown, designed to make consumers feel they are getting a bargain while allowing the school to fill its classrooms. Without these markdowns, enrollment numbers wouldn't survive. Yet, offering discounts means the school needs more students to cover its fixed operating expenses. When enrollment drops even slightly, the entire model begins to unravel. Smaller private colleges with modest endowments are particularly vulnerable to these minor shifts. They rely almost entirely on the net tuition cash that comes in every September. A shortfall of just 20 students can leave $1 million hole in the annual budget. To understand why $1 million shortfall is so catastrophic, one must look at where the cash is spent. Personnel costs represent the largest single expense on any university balance sheet, typically consuming between 50% and 60% of the entire operating budget. Faculty members expect competitive salaries, and those on the tenure track receive lifetime job security that prevents administrators from trimming payroll during enrollment downturn. Professors at prestigious research institutions can command annual salaries exceeding $150,000, even before pension contributions and healthcare benefits are added. Beneath the tenured faculty lies a large army of adjunct professors who are paid by the individual course, often earning low wages without benefits to keep instructional budgets manageable. While adjunct labor keeps teaching expenses lower, it doesn't stop the relentless expansion of administrative personnel. Colleges have significantly expanded their administrative offices over the past 30 years, hiring coordinators for student life, diversity compliance, career services, and mental health support. These administrative positions aren't routinely cut, as they directly impact student satisfaction, campus safety, and institutional compliance. Employee healthcare plans and pension liabilities are another massive expense, especially for colleges with aging faculty population. Providing comprehensive benefits is necessary to attract talent, but the annual premium increases routinely outpace the growth of net tuition revenue. Administrating federal student aid programs requires expensive software platforms and dedicated compliance officers to avoid costly government audits. Operating a modern campus also requires a massive physical footprint that demands constant maintenance and high utility expenses. Historical stone halls and Gothic libraries look beautiful on admissions brochures, but they are incredibly expensive to heat and maintain. Many institutions face a growing backlog of deferred maintenance that can easily reach hundreds of millions of dollars for older campuses. Steam pipes burst under manicured lawns, while aging electrical grids require multi-million-dollar overhauls that can't be postponed. Delaying these repairs only increases the eventual cost, but struggling schools simply lack the liquid cash to address them. Compounding these maintenance struggles is the pressure to win students through the campus amenities arms race. Modern students don't just look at academic rankings, they compare climbing walls, lazy rivers, luxury dormitories, and state-of-the-art fitness facilities. Attracting wealthy families has pushed universities to take on billions of dollars in construction debt for luxury residence halls with private bathrooms and gourmet kitchens. Dining halls must offer multiple food stations, organic options, and allergen-free kitchens, which increases food service payroll. Capital projects of this scale are typically financed through municipal bonds, leaving the school with decades of fixed debt service payments that must be paid regardless of enrollment level. Beyond classroom maintenance, universities must fund expensive scientific research facilities to remain competitive. Modern laboratories require specialized ventilation systems, backup generators, and clean rooms that cost millions of dollars to build and maintain. Even if a researcher secures a federal grant, the university must still pay for the baseline facility operations and administrative compliance. Compliance itself has become a major expense driver. Schools must maintain dedicated offices to ensure compliance with Title IX regulations, which govern gender equity in educational programs and sports. Legal fees and investigation costs associated with Title IX compliance can drain millions from a school's operating budget. Accreditation audits require hundreds of hours of staff time every few years, forcing institutions to hire specialized consultants. Failure to maintain accreditation means losing access to federal student aid, which would instantly bankrupt almost any private university. Therefore, compliance expenses are non-negotiable, leaving administrators with very few options when they need to cut costs. Cutting library hours or reducing department budgets only goes so far when the baseline costs are fixed. If a school can't lower its expenses, it must find a way to maximize the revenue coming from its student body. Calculating the true cost of a class of incoming students requires a complex mathematical balance. Admissions officers must carefully balance academic qualifications against the financial needs of each applicant. To fill a class, a university might accept 3,000 students, hoping that a fraction of them will enroll. Industry analysts refer to this enrollment percentage as the yield rate. For selective elite colleges, the yield rate can exceed 70%, meaning most accepted students choose to attend. At regional private colleges, the yield rate often hovers around 20%, forcing the school to send out thousands of acceptance letters just to fill a few hundred beds. Attracting those students requires the school to offer increasingly generous institutional grants. Rather than representing physical cash sitting in a bank, these grants function as direct deductions from the billed tuition price. If a school has a tuition discount rate of 55%, it means they are giving up more than half of their potential tuition revenue before classes even begin. During the early 1990s, the average discount rate hovered around 25%. As competition for middle-class students intensified, schools began using merit aid to lure students who didn't qualify for need-based assistance. That strategy turned financial aid into a recruiting tool, but it also started a race to the bottom where colleges had to offer larger discounts just to maintain their student counts. Today, a high sticker price paired with a large discount is a marketing strategy that exploits the human tendency to associate price with quality while offering the illusion of a selective scholarship. Indeed, families have become highly sensitive to the final net price. Comparison shopping between competing private schools. Enrollment consultants use predictive algorithms to analyze the financial data of applicants and determine the minimum discount required to secure their enrollment. Predictive models calculate if a student can be enticed with a $12,000 merit grant or if they require a $15,000 package to choose the school. Should a rival college offer a discount that is $5,000 larger, the student will often enroll there, forcing the first school to either match the price or lose the enrollment. Should fewer students enroll, the school can't simply reduce its class sizes and save money. Professors must still be paid, and campus classrooms must still be heated. Bridging the gap between net tuition revenue and operating costs requires support from the school endowment. Many people view an endowment as a massive checking account that the university can spend at will. In reality, an endowment is a collection of thousands of individual funds, most of which carry strict donor restrictions. One donor might give $5 million, but specify that the earnings can only be used to fund a specific chair in the chemistry department. Administrators can't touch that money to repair a leaking roof or pay the electricity bill for the library. Trustees typically limit annual spending to between 4% and 5% of the endowment's total value to preserve its purchasing power for future generations. Under these rules, a $100 million endowment only generates about $5 million in annual operating support. With an endowment of $20 million or less, the annual payout is barely enough to cover a few faculty salaries. Schools without massive reserves are left almost entirely dependent on tuition and auxiliary fees to survive. When those tuition dollars fall short, colleges must look for other ways to generate cash. Auxiliary enterprises, which include student housing and dining services, represent the second largest source of revenue for most colleges. Dormitory fees and meal plans are critical profit centers because they are not subjected to the same discounting as tuition. Even when a student receives a 50% discount on tuition, they almost always pay the full price for room and board. Dormitories are highly profitable because they allow colleges to pack hundreds of students into single buildings with minimal staffing costs. Meal plans function similarly, with colleges charging high daily rates for food that is prepared in bulk. Students are often required to live on campus and purchase these meal plans for their first 2 years, guaranteeing a steady flow of cash to the university. International enrollment historically served as a critical subsidy, as these students rarely qualified for federal aid and often paid the full sticker price. One full-paying international student could generate the equivalent net revenue of 3 discounted domestic students. Changes in visa policies and escalating geopolitical tensions have made international enrollment highly unpredictable. Losing these full-paying students forces the university to find domestic replacements, which usually means increasing the discount rate and lowering net tuition revenue. Research grants from federal agencies like the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation offer another potential revenue stream. Grant awards often include extra funds to cover the overhead of operating the research facility. Only a small number of elite universities secure the bulk of this federal research funding. Smaller private colleges lack the infrastructure to compete for these grants, leaving them out of the research economy entirely. Athletic departments are another area where reality diverges from the popular imagination. Although major television contracts and merchandise sales generate millions for a handful of sports powerhouses, the vast majority of college athletic programs operate at a loss. Among smaller schools, sports programs are actually loss leaders used to recruit students who might not otherwise enroll. Introducing a Division III football program, for example, can bring in 60 paying students who want to continue playing sports after high school. Recruits pay tuition to the school, but the athletic department itself doesn't generate direct revenue from ticket sales or licensing. Donor giving remains the final major revenue pillar for private universities. Annual fundraising campaigns target alumni for small contributions, while major gift officers pursue wealthy donors for multi-million-dollar naming rights. Yet, like endowments, most donor gifts are earmarked for specific purposes, leaving administrators with limited flexibility. Alumni participation rates have declined steadily over the past 2 decades, forcing fundraising offices to rely on a small number of ultra-wealthy donors. Relying on a few mega donors makes the university vulnerable to the personal whims and political views of these individuals, who may threaten to pull funding over campus controversies. Renting out campus facilities during the summer for conferences, corporate retreats, youth sports camps, and weddings has become a common strategy to generate unrestricted cash. Summer rentals help cover the utility bills during the quiet months, though they remain insufficient to offset a major tuition shortfall. Wealthy benefactors might happily fund a new athletic facility, but refuse to donate to the general operating fund that pays for janitorial staff. Campus leaders are often forced to construct beautiful new buildings that they can't afford to maintain. Each new facility adds to the fixed overhead, increasing the pressure to recruit more tuition-paying students. As long as the student population grew, this cycle could continue. But the demographic trends that supported this growth for decades are about to shift dramatically. All of these financial pressures are colliding with a massive demographic barrier that higher education experts call the enrollment cliff. That barrier was constructed during the Great Recession of 2008. With the economy in crisis, birth rates across the United States plummeted. American births peaked at approximately 4,300,000 in 2007, but dropped to about 3,600,000 by 2013. Representing a drop of nearly 17%, this birth decline marked a permanent downward shift in average family size. Recruits born during that recession are now reaching college age. Starting in 2025, the pool of high school graduates in the United States will begin to shrink rapidly. Some projections estimate that higher education will lose more than 500,000 traditional students in a 4-year period. Elite institutions with multi-billion-dollar endowments will easily weather the storm, as they have enough applicants to fill their classes many times over. Brand recognition allows schools like Harvard and Stanford to maintain high yield rates and collect substantial application fees. Private colleges that serve regional populations with small endowments and high tuition discount rates are facing an existential struggle. Geographic location plays a major role in determining which schools are most vulnerable to the demographic downturn. Institutions in the Northeast and Midwest are facing the steepest declines in high school graduates, as population shifts have favored the South and West. Numerous small schools in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts are already fighting for survival, leading to a wave of mergers and consolidation. They must compete fiercely for a shrinking number of students who can afford to pay any tuition at all. Winning these students forces schools to either increase their discount rates further or lower their admissions standards. Either choice damages the university's financial health, either by reducing net tuition revenue or by lowering the student retention rate. Accepting academically underprepared students often leads to higher dropout rates, which leaves empty beds and unpaid tuition in subsequent semesters. Across the country, the pace of campus closures has already begun to accelerate. Historically, Private non-profit college closures were rare events, averaging about 3 per year before 2014. Over the past decade, that average has climbed to 10 closures per year. During 2024 alone, at least 17 private non-profit colleges shut down permanently. Often, the end comes suddenly when a bank pulls a line of credit or an accreditation agency flags financial instability. Once a college is flagged, potential students flee, accelerating the death spiral. Higher education has evolved into a game of scale that favors only the wealthiest institutions. Mid-tier institutions that rely on the local community and lack a global brand find themselves with a high fixed cost structure and no market power. Board members can't raise tuition because families won't pay it, and they can't cut expenses further without destroying the academic experience. Starvation of this kind is slow and painful, then silence. Eventually, the gates close for the last time. Today, the historic brick buildings and sprawling lawns of Birmingham Southern College remain, but they are no longer filled with student activity. Creditors are currently trying to sell the 192-acre campus to satisfy outstanding debts. But the market for empty college campuses is incredibly small and the classrooms remain empty. Nearly 170 years of educational history is now reduced to a real estate listing that has found no buyers.